3 of the songs we played here for the Junos in the jazz category, and I got an email back saying our jazz committee is moving this to the instrumental music category because it's not jazz. And when I wrote them back, I said, okay, what isn't jazz about it? Didn't have an answer.
Hello everyone, welcome to New Music Paths. I'm here in Edmonton with world-class musicians and I'm very excited to talk about this project called Modern Times. So get ready for some awesome jazz. Thom, could you introduce the band for us?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. To my left here is Ryan Davidson on guitar, Mike Churchill on bass, Jeremiah McDade on saxophone, and I play drums.
And you're Thom Bennett?
Thom Bennett, yes. Thank you.
Awesome. So what is the concept behind this project, Thom?
Honestly, I feel like jazz is such an umbrella language of music where it just kind of supports and allows a bunch of different genres within it. So we all work as professional musicians in a bunch of different groups, and I just kind of wanted to have a creative improvised project that sort of draws from the experience we've all had in those different settings.
What excites you about jazz? What draws you to jazz and improvised music?
You know, speaking as a rhythm section instrument, it's also probably the most democratic music out there in terms of each member of the band having, for sure, like a specific role to their instrument, but then also a moment to kind of either interact more or have the opportunity to express themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with the conversational part. I also like the freedom that gives you. You can use kind of all of your data that you know, and you also feel kind of like you're composing all the time too. Even if I'm just accompanying somebody behind the head, it doesn't have to be a static pattern that happens over and over like a lot of other genres.
I don't know, I guess it would almost be like golf. Like it's just something you can never quite master. It's always something you can keep working on and finding something new.
Both of them, swing is very important.
Yes.
It's not like you can just learn jazz. I mean, that's a lifetime pursuit.
Saying like jazz is a very broad term, right? So you have Latin jazz. I heard you guys playing that, and even inside that, in fact, that's funny because that's how we met, right?
Yeah.
In FORTE when someone said, "Let's play Latin," and then we look at each other and say, "Can you be more specific?"
Yeah.
Because even Latin, then you have like so many different subgenres, and so it's so cool to see you guys exploring all that. So that's part of the project, like exploring all this like crossing and fusion.
Stylistically, like everyone comes to a style, I guess organically from their own experiences. So like my version of listening to sambas and bossa novas obviously is completely different from yours. And then I actually kind of changed how I played them after we spoke because you kind of broke down where the weight of the beat is in a samba as opposed to a bossa nova.
Do you see any trends today, like the new bands or people that are experimenting with something that you find really interesting?
You're always kind of encapsulating or standing on the encapsulating the tradition, or like standing on the shoulders of the people that have come before you. So I think you're always going to be influenced by that. But those traditions keep flowering too, right? So I mean, when you say what's at the forefront, I mean, there's still people playing trad jazz, maybe in like a modern way, or playing standards in more of a modern way.
I think that the definition of what is jazz has changed a lot over the last 80 years, where in the 40s people were recording the popular songs of the time, and it was called jazz, and it was accessible because the audience already recognized that song, even in the format of being instrumental. And now it's like we did a Radiohead song and a Willie Nelson song, and we're doing pretty much the exact same thing they were doing then, but for some reason the definition of what that isn't jazz now. I'm not sure what's changed, but we went through this, Thom and I went through this. We submitted 3 of the songs we played here for the Junos in the jazz category, and I got an email back saying our jazz committee is moving this to the instrumental music category because it's not jazz. And when I wrote them back, I said, okay, what isn't jazz about it? They didn't have an answer.
Ryan, I noticed even when you were like warming up, and also in the tunes that we recorded that you arranged it at the end too, you have lots of influences, like even from classical music, right?
I grew up playing classical guitar and I love it. I just was not good enough to be a concert guitarist, and I figured that out pretty early on. I went, this is not for me.
Smart.
And basically my influences were my dad's 45s, which were rock and country in the 50s, and our next door neighbor, who was this Irishman who had nothing but classical records, and he said, check out this Chopin, check out this, So I was getting fed kind of both those things at the same time, and then I went to jazz school, which is a total other thing, and here we are. Whatever this is.
What is the jazz scene, let's say in Edmonton? Then if you could zoom out, and what is the jazz scene in Canada? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think there just needs to be more, like if Edmonton had 3 places that had 4-night-a-week standards gigs, where you could go in and you had to play a whole night of that from memory. I think that would very dramatically change how many great jazz musicians that we would have in Canada.
From Edmonton to all of Canada, like I went to school in Toronto, and there was way more music there than there is here, and places to play, but it's also just relative in that way, I guess. I don't know, it just seems to be like just a change in society in general, where not as many people want to go out to watch it, so it's like a supply and demand thing almost. Yeah, there used to be way more places to play. Like 4 Rooms was great.
Yeah, Zanari's.
Yeah,
But then, I heard the landlord gave them or jacked up their rent 10 times and they couldn't afford it anymore, so they had to close. So it's just stories like that.
Jazz scenes across Canada are very localized, so very few people end up actually playing with other people outside of their own cities. A little bit, but not much. So it's each one is a kind of microcosm in itself, and it's got its hierarchies. But I mean, there's great players all over Canada. The thing about jazz scenes in Canada is that I don't know anyone who just makes a living playing jazz. So if you're looking to make a living, you have to do either different types of music, which is what I do. I love playing jazz and make part of my living playing jazz, but so every single, I noticed once I came out of university, I was thinking, I'm going to really go for jazz. It's like, well, my most admired musicians in Canada were all desperate to get a teaching job at a professor somewhere in one of the universities here. And that kind of, as soon as you realize that, it's like, oh, those guys can't make a living playing jazz in Canada. So that, I think, sums up the Canadian jazz scene.
Ending on a positive note.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I confess, like, after a year or so without live music, today was a blast.
Thanks so much for having us. Very much appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I'd like to especially thank AFA for funding this project and Myland Productions. Don't forget to share this with your friends and subscribe to our channel. And see you on New Music Paths.